Welcome to Render Time, a podcast where we dive deep into topics for all things video. Today, we're going to explore the world of client services. Working with clients can sometimes be challenging, especially if you aren't familiar with them or you're working with a client for the first time. Join us as we hear from experts in the B2B industry that work with clients on a daily basis, from pre to post-production and everything in between. Hello, everyone. My name is Luke Davis, and I'm a video editor at MarketScale. I've been editing with MarketScale for a little over 2.5 years. And today I have the distinct honor to be joined by some fantastic B2B experts in all things production. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at how we should approach working with clients as creators, whether it's a new client or maybe a client you've been working with for years. I think it's going to be great to hear from the point of views of every stage in production. Which brings me to our guest today. I am joined by Nguyen and Erik Hollen. Victor oversees operations and client services and is also a creative, and Erik is a videographer as well as a video editor. Guys, thank you so much for taking out time today to talk about working with clients. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How's it going, Luke? Erik?
Doing well. How are y'all doing?
Doing well, thank you. Good to hear. So share with the audience real quick, just basic overview of what you guys do at MarketScale in relation to working with clients.
So I help on our video team here at MarketScale. I am a video editor as well as I also help with videography time to time. I've been shooting and editing video for over 10 years now. And so I have a lot of experience in both and use both of those skill sets here at MarketScale. And I work with clients pretty much every week on a weekly basis, whether it's either making sure that it's the videos that they're wanting are exactly what they're wanting, making sure that their brand is being portrayed and is being used in all of their videos. I help oversee a lot of the editors and help make sure that they are executing what the clients are asking.
On my end, I am a director of platform engagement here at MarketScale. That's essentially just a fancy title saying, it's my role, it's my responsibility to help get clients onboarded onto our platform, utilizing as much of our services as they can to get value out of their contract. I oversee a team of a little over 20 account managers. We oversee about 70 to 75 clients currently. My day-to-day is basically spent ensuring the efficiency of these operations, ensuring that deliverables get out on time, talking high level with clients to determine what their needs are and to make sure the needs are met. And working with folks like Erik on our post-production side to just kind of jam things through because, as Erik knows, there's a lot going on. Luke, as well. And there are things in client services where, we're kind of in it a bit. So we know how to prioritize certain things for various reasons, whether it be, political or deadline based or what have you.
So clearly a lot of experience here. And, I'm mostly on the post side of things, just taking the content, getting it out in a timely fashion. So it seems like we got the whole spread covered, right? Of every phase of it. So I want to start out by asking, when you're working with a new client, what kind of specific goals or outcomes are you aiming for in that first project? Or,
sure. On my end, honestly, we don't work on a per project basis, right? That's what I mean when I say like my role is based on platform engagement. I'm not the director of video. I'm not the director of operations or something like that. So my job when we do our first project together with the client is to figure out who they are, what they're looking for, what their habits are, how acquainted they are with pre-production, production, and post-production, right? Because depending on their familiarity with those components and depending on their discipline or lack thereof, or various neuroses or organizational quirks, right? That first project is really there for me to kind of diagnose who they're going to be so that we can lay down the standard operating procedures that are necessary to ensure that the campaign performs successfully in a way that both we will interpret as success, but also that the client will interpret as success.
Have been working with new clients a lot more lately. I've been had the opportunity to create those videos that Victor is talking about, where we are working on a initial project for them. And typically, what that looks like is Victor or another director here at MarketScale will connect with them, and they will figure out, like he said, who you are, who's your audience. That's a huge thing that clients tend to sometimes overlook, but that is very important, because depending on who your audience is the type of content that you're going to create. And so figuring out what type of content is um, doable for them, but also that their audience will enjoy and engage with. Are they on social media? Are they on the internet? Are they on YouTube? Where is their audience? Is their audience internal? Right. So those are all things that people like Victor look at, and I basically am the tool and the person to help get that initial project going. I typically will figure out, based off of notes and things like that, that Victor and our directors look for and ask them. I will look at that, figure out what it is that they're wanting, and based off of what we typically do for other clients here at MarketScale, and based off of the type of video that they are wanting, the type of client that they are, the type of service that they're in, or the industry that they're in, I will create a project, or I'll create a video based off of those needs. And typically, once they approve or are happy with that first video, from there, we are able to figure out what other types of videos that they would like to do, right? So they may want to do a podcast, right? But they are more built for other types of videos. And then we can go from there and build on that. And maybe eventually they're able to do a podcast. So, client wants and what client is able to do, realistically, is something that we try to navigate here at MarketScale. And it's something that we try to coach them and help them with. But a lot of what I do initially is creating a project that they really enjoy.
And there's also something to be said about that first project. That's where we're trying to find like standardization, right? Like, because we don't know what their brand guidelines are. We don't know that they have, specific rules. Like, we have clients who are like, you can never show the color red anywhere because that's our competitor's color. And so even like the slightest tinge of red is no good. And then there's some where it's like every single time you have to show, you show the color orange, you have to show the color yellow, because we have like this internal process where, those two things represent these twin pillars of, something, and those things always go together and they have to complement each other. So, and those are things that we try to learn them as early as we can, because it's really annoying, Luke, if you're on like the 17th video we've ever made for a client, and they don't know that this is only your third video editing for them, and this is only the third video that you've edited within one sub brand of theirs. And so you may not have gotten the memo that yellow and orange always have to be together. And so we want to try to build that knowledge systemically throughout an organization, so that it's readily available for folks like yourself.
There is a great variety in the types of videos that clients want. And there's also a great variety in the type of videos that we are capable of. We're capable of pretty much anything. We have a great team.
Right.
We have graphics capabilities. We can do whatever.
It's like the project management pyramid. It's like there's money, there's time, right?
Yeah.
And then
When the possibilities are endless, it's almost like overwhelming. It's like,
And what fits them is also important. What fits one client may not fit another client. And you'll realize that quickly when the video comes out and it doesn't make sense, or it doesn't fit right. And that's something where people like Victor help with the clients.
Absolutely. And, Victor, you were talking about, maybe an editor doing a new video for a client that's a sub brand, or not being familiar with those procedures. And it happens all the time. There's certain clients that have like 10 lines of podcasts or whatever they're doing. And it's like, it almost makes me think that maybe we should be creating a relationship not only with client and DMS, or client and MarketScale, but also client and editor.
That's kind of what we want to try to coach like all editors to be, like, to recognize that collaboration is the main component. We want editors and creatives everywhere to, when there is that ambiguity, to know that, hey, reach out to the account manager to have this discussion. Build those relationships, because if you build those relationships, they will really, really go a long way.
That brings me up to follow up about when you're having trouble hitting those marks, and you're having trouble, maybe you don't know what the client wants, maybe they don't know what they want. How do you navigate that?
The tricky part with any time you're working with a client and you give them the option, which we happily do, to be able to make as many changes as needed. Right. One thing that gets kind of said around here is that when you go to a restaurant, if you're not happy with your meal, you can send it back. And if you're sending your food back, though, 10 times, right, I'm pretty sure you're going to leave the restaurant, or maybe you don't know what you want
or you're
to
going to
eat.
starve to death.
Right. So I think it's similar. Exactly. By that time, it's breakfast the next morning. And dinner's over. Right. So how do we make sure that we're eating dinner at dinner time? And I think that's the way we have to look at it, and the way we have to talk with the client and coach them. And we have to try and figure out, okay, how do we cross the finish line here? We could make changes and keep doing changes, right? On and on and on. But at some point, this video needs to get out. Now, sometimes I will say this: when a video has a deadline, a harsh deadline, like it has to be done by tomorrow at 5 p.m., typically client will be more inclined to cross the finish line a little bit sooner and a little bit easier. But whenever there is such a broad amount of time, or there's no timetable, right, they could always keep coming back for more and more and more.
Yeah, for sure. Well said, Eric. On our end, it's like, on the one hand, we want to make sure the margins are good, right? So we want to keep the revisions down. We want to be able to diagnose what it is that the client needs as early as possible. But if every single thing was going to be complete in one revision, that's a perfect world. But there's another sense of value that we provide as account managers, in that we can help figure out what the client wants better than the client can figure it out for themselves, right? The worst thing you can do as an account manager is to just be an order taker, like to be the waiter up front who just goes, oh yeah, sure, you want that, and you want that, and you want that. Okay, cool. That's not why our clients hired us, right? Our clients don't work in that same space. They're in B2B. They wear a lot of hats, but a lot of times the hats that they do wear are not creatively inclined. And a good account manager will know when a client comes to them with a bad idea, and they'll be able to tactfully reposition the client to do another idea instead. And the best thing is if they can reposition the client to do another idea that is cheaper for us to do, to be honest. It requires less back and forth between us and the client, and the final output is world away better than what the original idea was. And when a client gets something like that and they get it back, they fall in love with us. They start trusting us forever, and they start, asking for more of the same scalable things. And it makes things just open up and move a lot more smoothly in the long run.
Building trust in the beginning is crucial. If you don't have that in the beginning, then they're going to be questioning you left and right as you continue. So if you can build that trust in the beginning, and you can say, hey guys, we really suggest doing this for this video series, or hey, I think this video is good, we just need to do this, then I think things will move a lot more smoothly and videos will be done. But if they're not trusting you, right, and they're trying to figure out themselves, or they decide on their own they want to change something, that's where you start to see a lot of hiccups and a lot of revisions on videos happen.
Yeah, so we have nearly 100,000 videos that we've made,
and that's like in 2.5 years.
I mean, we're not quite there, but we're 3/4 of the way there. So we have a lot of work that we can even maybe show them, like, hey, before we put some work on it and just take a shot in the dark and try something and see if you like it. What do you think about that? We've got the portfolio now. What is your suggestion for editors who are dealing with a client who maybe doesn't know exactly what they want?
That's tough. So like, that's where it's sort of like, you guys are sort of like the players out on the floor, right? And our account managers, it's like they're the coaches. And so sometimes it's one of those situations where, and it might be because I'm on the client services side. It's sort of like, hey, the coach has the deepest context into what's happening right now. Let's execute the coach's game plan. If we lose this game, then we can try something different for the next game. But for now, it's sort of like, we want to be rigorous in like our testing, right? So if it's like the editor is kind of doing their own thing without any authorization, and then one account manager is kind of doing their own thing, and then maybe Erik steps in and does his own thing with the same project, right? Then we have like 3 different competing interpretations of a haphazard client goal. And that's no good, right? What we need to do is consolidate those goals and communicate with each other, right? Like, everyone who's involved, they should probably get into a room together and sit and discuss. And the director can listen to what's feasible, what's cost effective, and synthesize that into something that would be satisfactory to the client. There are projects that come up that are much more along the lines of, you're going to want to work on this project. There is a good degree of subjectivity here that the client wants us to be subjective on. They want us to flex our creative muscles to the fullest on. And if you've shown to the account managers, to post-production, that you're the type of person who we can trust to collaborate with us and to have a good eye on things, those projects are going to be assigned to you. We want to give you guys like work that you would be very satisfied to do, but we don't want to have to over rely on you also.
Yeah, I think you, first of all, like I mentioned earlier, you have to really find out when a video is due, right? So if you know that you have an hour to do something for this video, I don't think you're going through every template on Envato and every song choice in Artlist and every video for Imagination on YouTube. By that point, the video's already due and you haven't even picked a song, right? So you have to find out when a video is due. You have to find out what needs to be done in the video, right? If it's a few changes, if it's starting from scratch, right? If it's you're working on information or an example from a previous video, or is this just a one-off video that a client is wanting? You kind of need to look at it like I should be spending 3 or 4 hours on this project, or I should be spending 1 hour on this project.
So Luke, if you get a video and like there's really not that much direction, it's just sort of like very basic phrasing, and here's a brand book, like what's your mentality to it? Because for me, it's sort of like I look at what a client puts in, and I'm just like, let's just try to match the effort one for one, guys. Like if a client's like, I'm just recording this on my phone on the go really quickly, like, yeah, sure, we'll just throw some lower thirds on and we should be good.
You got to start somewhere, like you were saying, Eric, earlier. If you give them something that they love, great. If you give them something that they hate, not great.
You learn some stuff.
Now we have a chunk of marble to cut away at. We can make it a nice granite, Adonis or whatever. And you use your instincts, and the creativity comes in. I mean, we are creatives. That's why a lot of us got into this. And so you trust your instincts. You take whatever sound bites you have to create a narrative. I mean, it's always a story. And then you turn it in. And once the client sees, something that either they like or they don't, if they haven't given you direction, they're going to give you some direction now.
One thing that I really have been trying to work on myself, but work with our editors as well, and this is something I practice all the time. I would rather take way longer on the first version and get it right and have it be exactly, really closely at least, what the client wants, and take the time to ask questions and to analyze and to figure out what they want, rather than doing 10 or 15 different revisions and just spitting something random out in the very first revision or the very first video. And the reason why is because if I'm a client and I watch a video, if it's nothing like what I asked for, I don't know if I want to continue the project. I don't know if I can for sure get what I'm wanting. I don't know if what I'm saying is being heard. Whereas, and maybe I'm happy, right, that I got the video an hour later, but I start really questioning a lot of different things. And maybe I am a new client and I am starting to wonder, what did I get myself into? Maybe I should cancel the contract, because this is not at all what I was thinking, asking for. I had a long conversation with a digital media strategist, but now this edit looks nothing like what I wanted. Was there a communication gap? What happened? So for me, I would rather a client wait either a day or a few hours, however long they're expecting, right? But make sure that it's right and that they're getting at least something that they can be proud of to be able to put on their website. And maybe there is a few changes that need to be made. And I think too, when you deliver what they're wanting in the beginning, it gives them less things to try to question, because they know that you are listening to them and you already are aware of their needs, So I think that's important for really just anything in general that you're doing in terms of video.
What are the big do's and don'ts? What are the things that clients typically love, and what are the things that clients typically hate in these deliverables that you see over and over again? Just so that we can sort of sharpen that direction.
That's a tough one. Again, we have 250 or so clients. There are things that some of them love that others hate, and vice versa, right? What I would say that's uniform that clients absolutely despise is having to tell is having to tell us the same thing over and over and over again, right? Because we have like a decentralized platform, it's through no fault of our own that it's through no fault of like the editing community, for instance, that you guys wouldn't know that one particular client has told us, do not do this, do not do this. Like we as folks on the account management team know, like we can put instructions in our brand book, but for some reason or another, like maybe the client selects the wrong brand book, or maybe there was a recent rebranding or something like that. If they see evidence that we have not listened to something that they've told us over and over again, that's really the only universal, uniform thing that they won't like. So how that translates down to the editors would be, we've streamlined the brand book so that only parts that we've modified that
Victor, can you real quick explain what a brand book is?
Yeah, so
maybe
within our
someone doesn't know?
platform, we sort of have these brand guideline pages that describe like a template for how specific video series of specific clients should be edited. So it's on the DMS, it's on account management to make sure that those brand books are filled out to be in a way that would result in a satisfactory deliverable. For the editors, you guys just need to follow exactly what's in the brand book. Nothing will irk a client more than, if within inside the brand guideline, there is, a very particular logo sting, and we use a slightly different logo sting for whatever reason. Those are the kinds of things that if a client sees, they'll be very irked by. That being said, we have other layers within our operations to prevent a client seeing that. We have multiple layers of QC, the account manager, it's on them to, before they deliver it, to look over it and say, oh, the client shouldn't see that, so there's other things there, but it's right. One of those things where every one of us kind of has to do a little bit of lifting. So just make sure you follow the brand books. If you're on the editor side, you should be good. DMS, the DMS are just, they should know, they know in particular what will set their clients off. And if they're not diligent on that, then that's on them.
Victor, I have a question for you, just out of curiosity. Typically, does someone who quality controls, do they typically quality control for a similar client each time, or could someone just be put on a random video and maybe they aren't familiar with that client or that video or that series?
I will say that there are, in a typically, the QCers are probably grabbing videos that they feel most comfortable QCing. So it's like we have a list of, there's a list of clients or projects specifically that the directors have identified as, hey, this needs a bit more of a boutique touch. And so, we have people set aside who are closer to the client to QC those things. So the QCers will skip those and they'll QC things that are not as high pressure. And I'd imagine that within that, the quality controllers, they'll pick the projects and clients that they're most comfortable with first. That being said, sometimes a project can stay within the quality control queue for a very long time. And so if they're sorting it by, how long a project has been in there, they might grab that and QC it, even if maybe they don't know enough about the nuances of it. That's honestly a little bit more on client services. Like we need to make sure that our account managers are grabbing the videos that need to be QC'd by the account management team themselves, right? Like this is a question of responsibility. Like if you are responsible for something for whatever reason, you need to know about it. Like the QCers and the editors, I tell the DMS, they are like your support and operations team. It's your job to delegate and make sure things are running smoothly for your clients, because we kind of run sort of like a matrix organization where, each account manager is sort of the manager within the manager of a bunch of different folks for specific clients, right? If you're working on an account for client A, then, Nguyen or someone should be your manager for that. And you need to check in on your manager if there's any confusion. But it is on the account manager to make sure that, hey, this stuff does not need to be automated. I need to oversee that personally myself because I have the context for this and other people don't.
If there's anything that I want editors to learn, or even videographers or anyone that works with clients to understand from this podcast, because we talked a lot about catering to clients and understanding what they're needing. The bottom line is, if you are doing your job and you are going out of your way to make sure that it is what they're wanting, you're doing your homework, right? You're making sure that you are using the brand guidelines that they give you, and halfway through a project, they completely change their mind. They go through a rebrand literally in the middle of a project. You should know that that is not your fault. That is not on you. And so part of this transaction is the client. They're on the other half. It's not 70-30. It's 50-50, in my opinion. It's a partnership. We are helping them, and they are communicating to us their needs and wants. And so if they select a wrong brand guideline for a series, or they don't provide the correct information before the editing process or before a shoot, right? You could go into a shoot and think you're filming this B-roll, right? And it's like, no, we needed you to film this B-roll. Well, did you communicate that to us?
Yeah.
No? Okay. Well, we filmed the B-roll that we were communicated to do, or we edited the video that you guys provided. I'm apologize that whoever was speaking for you maybe made a mistake, but you went in and chose, right? So that's one thing that I love about Studio, is that they can go in and choose and fill out the form and choose the brand guideline that they want for a video. And so what that does is it verifies, this is what you're wanting, and this is what we're going to produce. And so when there is that communication, and when there is that back and forth, which I know we hit on a lot earlier, but I think it's important. Communication is the biggest key in any relationship, let alone a relationship with a client. And if your communication is really bad on one end and really good on the other, it's not going to work. There has to be clear and active communication on both sides for there to truly be success in any project and in any relationship. And if you're noticing, and I'm curious what Victor would say, but if you're noticing that they are checked out, if they're taking forever to respond, at that moment, what are steps that MarketScale can take? But I think it's just important for editors, videographers to understand and to know that you should not beat yourself up necessarily if they are changing their mind, or they are not sure of what they're wanting necessarily.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one thing if you're not hitting the mark, and it's another thing if they are changing their mind or having their own internal struggles. And
right.
Guys, these have been some great insights about every aspect of the client, editor, and DMS relationship. Before we close out, is there anything else you guys wanted to cover? Anything that we missed? Any final remarks?
My closing thoughts are, for the editors, if you guys ever have any questions or anything like that, just feel free to reach out to us. Pester the heck out of us. Find whoever it was on the MarketScale side who submitted the edit. Feel free to just blast them with questions because they will greatly appreciate that collaboration. And more than that, it will set you up for like a deeper rapport.
Yeah, I think for me, it would be communication is key. Communication with anyone that you're working with a client that you're working with, putting your stepping into the client's shoes, doing whatever you need to do for that, whether it's looking at their website, looking at what they do on social media, right? Looking at previous video examples like we talked about, and then being confident in what you know. Feel free to speak up to whether it's a client or whether it's someone that's approving your video and say, hey, I tried doing that, but this is what I did instead because this works better. You know, you guys are the experts. The video editors are video editors, right? The client is not a video editor. So they want to know what's possible. They want to hear from you what's possible.
Well, thank you so much, Victor and Erik, for sharing your insights on working with clients in the video editing world. And editors, as Victor and Erik both said, just if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to them. Reach out to your DMS, get on the same page. As editors, we work with all types of clients on a daily basis, so I think this was extremely helpful for everyone watching or listening. We heard a lot of great things today, and I'm so excited to continue to learn from different creators in episodes to come. Thanks for tuning in to Render Time, and we'll see you next time.